The rain fell hard on Benin City, Nigeria, soaking the streets and flooding the gutters. In the heart of the city, the Grand New Hope Church stood tall, its white walls gleaming under the storm. But something was wrong. A foul smell crept from the church's foundation, curling into the noses of worshippers as they sang hymns. At first they ignored it, blaming the rain-soaked earth. But the stench grew stronger, darker, like death itself had settled beneath the altar. "Something's rotting," whispered a woman in the pews, her voice trembling. Her neighbor nodded, eyes wide. "It's not normal." Pastor Michael Edwards, the revered leader of New Hope, stood at the pulpit, his voice booming with scripture. His smile was warm, his eyes sharp, but his hands twitched as he gripped the Bible. For months, his wife, Sarah, and their 2 children, Daniel and Grace, hadn't been seen. "They're visiting family in Lagos," he'd say, waving off questions with a charming grin. But the neighbors on Ekenwan Road whispered. Sarah's laughter used to fill the street. Daniel's football games with local boys echoed until dusk. Grace's soft singing drifted from the compound. Now, silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. It was a young tenant, James, a fresh university graduate, who first sounded the alarm. His small room behind the church shared a wall with the main sanctuary. The smell wasn't just bad, it was suffocating, like a curse clawing at his throat. "This isn't sewage," he muttered, pacing. He called the police, his voice shaking. When they arrived, Pastor Michael stood calmly, insisting it was a broken pipe. But when the officers pried up the altar's tiles, the truth spilled out like poison. 3 bodies, Sarah, Daniel, and Grace, lay wrapped in white cloth, their arms entwined, buried under fresh cement. The crowd gasped, women screamed, men froze. Pastor Michael didn't cry. He sat on a pew, muttering verses, his eyes distant, as if he saw something no one else could. The city buzzed with rumors. Was it a ritual, a sacrifice? Sarah had been pregnant, they said, her belly just starting to show. Why would a man of God do this? Detectives dug deeper, and whispers grew louder. Sarah had discovered something dark, something Michael couldn't let the world know. But what? And why the children? The truth, as it unraveled, would shake Benin City to its core, revealing a secret so twisted it would haunt every soul who heard it. Long before the Grand New Hope Church, Michael Edwards was just Brother Michael, a young man with a worn Bible and a heart full of faith. At 17, he walked the dusty streets of Benin City, knocking on doors. "Good evening, ma'am. Can I pray with your family?" he'd ask, his voice soft, his smile gentle. Women offered him water. Men shook his hand, Children followed him, giggling. He never asked for money, never demanded offerings. He just prayed, his words simple but warm, like a fire on a cold night. But his church, a rickety shed on Siluko Road, stayed empty. No miracles, no crowds, just Michael preaching to the wind. He called his church House of Grace, but grace was all it had. The roof leaked, the benches creaked. Every Sunday Michael swept the floor, arranged the Bibles, and waited. No one came. Happy Sunday, he'd call to passers-by. They'd smile, nod, then hurry to bigger churches with flashing lights and pastors who made the blind see. Michael didn't shout. He didn't speak in tongues. He couldn't heal. His sermons were quiet, his prayers soft. Sometimes tears fell as he preached to empty chairs, but he never stopped. He believed God was listening. One evening, Michael visited a small house in Igor. An old woman, Mama Ruth, sat by her sick grandson Peter, who burned with fever. "No money for a hospital," she cried. Michael knelt, placed a hand on Peter's head, and prayed, "Lord, have mercy." Minutes later, Peter stirred. "I'm hungry," he whispered. Mama Ruth wept, hugging Michael. "God bless you," she said, pressing his hands. As he left, she called him back. "Your heart is good, but it won't fill your church," she said, her voice low. "I know a place where pastors get power, real power, to heal, to raise the dead. You can be great." Michael froze. Her words clung to him like damp cloth. He walked home, her voice echoing. "Power," she'd said. He looked at his Bible, then at the empty street. Something stirred in him, a hunger he didn't recognize. That night, he couldn't sleep. The promise of power danced in his mind, tempting him. What if he could fill his church? What if he could make miracles happen? The next day, he returned to Mama Ruth, his voice steady. "Take me there," he said. She smiled, her eyes glinting. What had he just agreed to? And what price would he pay? Mama Ruth led Michael through Benin City's outskirts, where the streets turned to bush paths and the air grew thick. The night was silent. No crickets, no owls, just their footsteps crunching on dry leaves. They reached a clearing where the sky seemed to vanish, swallowed by towering trees. In the center, a clay pot smoked, its fumes twisting like spirits in the air. 5 women stood around it, their faces painted white, their eyes glowing like embers. "What do you want?" one asked, her voice echoing without moving her lips. Michael's heart raced, but he spoke. I want power to heal, to fill my church. The women stared, unblinking. One stepped forward, holding a black ring that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat trapped in stone. Wear this, she said. Touch the sick. Pray softly. Miracles will come. Michael took the ring, sliding it onto his finger. The air stilled. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Mama Ruth nodded. Go, use it. As he left, the women's eyes followed him, unblinking, like they knew something he didn't. The next morning, Michael walked through Ugbowo, the ring heavy on his hand. He found Mr. Thomas, a man crippled for years, sitting outside his shop. Let me pray for you, Michael said. Mr. Thomas laughed. You? Even big pastors couldn't help me. But Michael placed his hand on Thomas's head, whispered a prayer, and stepped back. Thomas blinked, then stood. His legs didn't shake. He walked. He ran. The crowd gasped. Miracle! A woman screamed. Pastor Michael has power, they shouted. Money fell at his feet. People knelt. By Sunday, House of Grace was packed. People spilling out the doors, crutches in hand, hope in their eyes. Michael healed the blind, the mute, the broken. His church grew. He bought cars, built a mansion. People called him Prophet of Fire. But at night, the ring burned his finger, whispering secrets he couldn't understand. Then Mama Ruth returned. The power needs more, she said. Bury 7 goats under your new church's altar. Michael obeyed, slaughtering them in the dark, their blood soaking the earth. The church opened, grander than ever, but something felt wrong. The air was heavy, and Sarah, his gentle wife, started asking questions. Why do you leave at night, Michael? She asked, her eyes searching his. Did she know? Could she sense the darkness growing inside him? His Bible warm, his heart sincere, but empty pews whisper doubt and fear. A voice in the night, it calls his name. It was sweet for Pastor Michael. New Hope Church overflowed with worshipers. Cars lined the streets on Sundays, offerings piled high. Sarah sat beside him, her smile gentle, her belly growing with their 3rd child. Daniel and Grace played in the church courtyard, their laughter a melody to the congregation. God has blessed this family, people said. But Sarah's questions grew sharper. Michael, what's in the locked room behind the altar? She asked one night. He brushed it off. Just storage, he lied. But her eyes lingered, suspicious. One night, Mama Ruth appeared again, her knock soft but chilling. More, she said, 20 goats for greater power. Michael Michael's stomach twisted, but he nodded. Under the moonless sky, he slit their throats, the blood pooling like a dark mirror. He buried them beneath the altar, the cement sealing their sacrifice. But Sarah woke that night. She followed him, silent, her bare feet cold on the church floor. She saw him, kneeling, blood dripping from a calabash, his white robe stained red. "Jesus," she gasped. Michael spun around, his eyes wild. "Sarah, please," he begged. "It's for the church, for us." "You're no man of God," she cried, backing away. "I'll tell everyone." She ran, her phone in hand, dialing a friend. "Come now, I saw something horrible." Michael chased her, his heart pounding. In the parlor, she screamed, "You're a monster!" He grabbed a knife from the kitchen, his hands shaking. "I only used goats," he pleaded. But her voice rose fierce. "I'll expose you." Then silence. A scream, a thud. Blood stained the floor. Daniel and Grace ran in, woken by the noise. "Mommy," Grace cried. Michael turned, his eyes empty. 2 more screams, then nothing. He dug through the night, burying them under the altar, their bodies wrapped in white. He smoothed the cement, washed his hands, and told the world they'd gone to Lagos. But the smell grew. James, the tenant, noticed it first. The police came, and the truth broke free. Michael sat in the church, muttering scriptures as the crowd wept. But there was a twist no one saw coming. The ring on his finger glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Had it controlled him, or was something else at play? The answer lay in the locked room Sarah had questioned, a room no one had ever entered. The courtroom in Benin City was packed, the air thick with grief and anger. Pastor Michael sat, his white robe dirty, his hands cuffed. The judge's voice boomed. "For the murder of your wife, Sarah, your children, Daniel and Grace, and your unborn child, you are sentenced to life." The crowd gasped, but Michael didn't flinch, his eyes fixed on the ring, still on his finger, glowing faintly. Whispers spread. Was he possessed? Cursed? The police had missed one thing, the locked room behind the altar. No one had checked it. James, the tenant, couldn't let it go. Late at night, he broke into the church, his flashlight shaking. The room's door was heavy, sealed with a strange lock that burned his hand. He pried it open, and what he saw froze his blood. The walls were covered in symbols, swirling ancient marks that seemed to move in the dark. In the center sat a clay pot, like the one in the forest, but larger, filled with a dark liquid that bubbled without heat. A voice whispered, You shouldn't be here." James stumbled back, heart pounding. The ring on Michael's finger, it wasn't just a tool, it was alive. Detectives later found Mama Ruth's name in old church records. She wasn't just an elder, she was a priestess, tied to a cult older than the city itself. The ring was no gift, it was a chain, binding Michael to a power that demanded blood. Sarah had found the room, seen the symbols, and threatened to expose it all. Michael, trapped by the ring's pull, couldn't let her. But the twist was darker. The cult wasn't done. The symbols glowed brighter after Michael's arrest, and worshippers reported strange dreams, voices calling them to the church at night. Michael sat in his cell, the ring still on his finger. He whispered prayers, but they felt empty. Then one night, he woke, screaming. The ring burned, searing his skin. He tore it off, throwing it across the cell. The walls shook. A voice laughed, deep and cold. "You can't escape," it said. Outside, the church's altar cracked, and the stench returned. Benin City trembled. Was the power still alive? Was it coming for more? The locked room held the answer, but no one dared open it again. Not yet.